All right, so today we are diving deep into the Internet of Medical Things.
IoMT, for those in the know.
Exactly. And we've got a ton of research here to unpack. Everything from your smartwatch to like the most cutting edge stuff happening in healthcare.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how pervasive IoMT already is.
Right.
I mean, you think about it, we're talking fitness trackers. We're
Mm.
talking the machines that are used for imaging in hospitals.
It's really changing how we even think about healthcare at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so for the few people out there who haven't like plugged their brain into the matrix yet,
Sure.
IoMT, basically we're talking about a network of medical devices, apps, all this stuff that's connected, sharing data about our health.
Yeah, and it's not just about collecting data, right? Think about it. Your smartwatch, it doesn't just tell time.
Please, I haven't worn a watch that just told time in like a decade.
Right. I mean, it's tracking your heart rate. It's maybe tracking how well you're sleeping.
Sage's steps.
All, yeah, and sending it back. And that's all IOMT in action.
It's kind of mind-blowing, right?
It
And you
is.
think about the potential, but it's
Yeah.
also, it's a little, you know,
A little scary.
a little uneasy,
Yeah,
right? Because we're talking about health data, which is about as sensitive as it gets.
absolutely. Security is definitely a major concern. Let's talk about the good stuff first.
All right, let's do it.
I mean, one of the biggest potential benefits here is early disease detection.
Okay.
Imagine your smartwatch, right? Being able to tell, being able to pick up on the early signs of something like heart disease and alert your doctor.
Wow.
We could be talking about adding years to people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge, right? But it's not just about catching those things early. Think about all the trips to the doctor you could avoid
Oh, absolutely.
because you've got this like at-home monitoring system.
Right. Fewer hospital visits, lower costs. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating to me is the potential for medical research.
Uh,
We're talking about being able to analyze data from thousands, potentially millions of patients.
that's game-changing in terms of understanding how diseases work, developing new treatments. It's like having this like giant anonymized database of human health.
Exactly. Identify trends, maybe even predict outbreaks. The possibilities, I think, are pretty incredible.
Yeah. Okay, so we've established IOMT, incredibly promising, potential to revolutionize healthcare.
Mm-mm.
But, and this is a big but, there's a flip side here. Because when everything's connected, the stakes of security get a whole lot higher, right?
Right.
And a lot of these devices, especially some of the older ones, they weren't built with cybersecurity as like a top priority.
Yeah, it's like building a house with no locks because you don't think anybody would ever try to break in.
Right.
You know, we're talking about devices that are running on outdated software, weak security protocols. I mean, they're just easy targets.
Hmm.
There was even a case a few years back where researchers found a vulnerability in a common insulin pump.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like somebody could hack into an insulin pump.
That's the scary part. I mean, they could have potentially manipulated dosages remotely.
Oh my gosh.
Thankfully, it was caught before any real harm was done.
Okay.
But it just highlights how critical this issue is.
That's chilling. And it's not just individual privacy at risk here, right?
Right.
We're talking about entire hospital networks that could be compromised.
Precisely. That interconnectedness, which is great for efficiency, data sharing, also a major vulnerability. One weak link, and the whole system can be brought down.
Wow.
And then you've got the challenge of keeping everything updated, patched. I mean, that's a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, it's not like pushing an update to your phone, right?
Exactly.
You can't just send a mass notification to everyone with a pacemaker.
Right. So incredible advancements, but a whole new set of challenges.
Okay. Okay, so how do we even begin to address this? Like, where do we even start?
Well, the good news is there are a lot of really smart folks out there working on solutions to make sure that IOMT can actually live up to its promise.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it really all starts with building in security from the very beginning,
Okay.
right? It's going to be baked in, not just like an afterthought, an add-on feature.
So you're saying it needs to be as fundamental as making sure like everything's sterile.
Exactly. Strong encryption for the data, both when it's being stored and when it's, going across networks, secure boot processes, making sure that only authorized software is running on these devices.
Right. So no tampering.
Exactly. And of course, you need secure mechanisms for updates.
Makes sense. So it's like instead of building that house with no locks, you're building it with like top-notch security features built right in.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But what about like the network these devices are connecting to?
Right.
I mean, how do you secure something as massive and complex as a hospital system.
Well, that's where this idea of network segmentation comes into play. So
Okay.
you can think of it kind of like dividing your house into separate secure rooms.
Okay.
So even if, God forbid, somebody manages to get into one, they can't automatically access everything else.
Right.
So in a hospital, this would mean isolating the most critical systems. Things like the systems that are actually controlling medical equipment, putting them on their own secure network.
So it's like putting the crown jewels in a vault, within a vault.
Exactly. And then within those segments, you add even more layers of protection, firewalls, access controls, really regulating who or what can even interact with those systems in the first place.
Okay, so we've got our security by design, we've got our super secure segmented network. What else are we bringing to this cybersecurity party?
We need some vigilant watchdogs, of course.
Okay, and I'm assuming you're not talking about, like, actual German shepherds with badges here.
No, no, no. Although that might be fun. We're
Right.
talking about sophisticated monitoring systems.
Okay.
Right. Things that are constantly scanning for any sign of suspicious activity.
So instead of just reacting after a breach, these systems are out there, like proactively hunting for threats.
Exactly. Intrusion detection and prevention systems, security, information, and event management tools, SENGIMs for short.
Okay.
These are systems that are constantly analyzing network traffic, looking for anything out of the ordinary.
That's wild. I mean, the amount of data these systems must have to process is incredible.
It is.
But even with all that in place, isn't there always the risk of human error? I mean, what happens if, like, somebody clicks on a phishing link
Oh, absolutely. You're right.
and accidentally, hands over their login credentials or something?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Technology can only take us so far, right?
Sure.
That's why ongoing staff training and awareness programs are absolutely non-negotiable.
Okay.
We need everyone on board, everyone aware of the risks and, following those security protocols.
It's like that old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and sometimes the weakest link can just be, human error.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about clicking on links. It's about strong passwords, recognizing potential phishing attempts, knowing how to report anything suspicious.
Right.
We need to really create a culture of security within healthcare organizations.
And that takes time.
It does.
It's not a one-time thing. It's got to be an ongoing effort. But kind of shifting gears here a little bit, what about, like, regulations?
Yeah.
Is anybody keeping an eye on this whole landscape from a legal standpoint?
That's a great question. It's a bit complicated, to be honest.
Okay.
The regulatory landscape, it's always playing catch up when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that there are no rules of the road.
Okay, so it's not just a complete free-for-all out there.
No, not at all. I mean, we have IPA, right? The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It lays out some really important guidelines for protecting people's health information, even when it's in electronic form.
Mm-hmm.
And the FDA, they've been issuing more and more guidance on cybersecurity for medical devices,
Okay.
both before they hit the market and after they're actually being used.
So there are regulations in place. They're just constantly evolving.
Yeah.
To keep up with, like, how fast this technology is moving.
Exactly. And in the meantime, it's really up to those medical device manufacturers and healthcare providers to go above and beyond the bare minimum
Yeah.
and really prioritize cybersecurity.
Absolutely, because as we've established, the stakes are just way too high to ignore it. But we've covered a lot here, but there's one more kind of fascinating, some might even say futuristic, aspect of IoMT security that we need to discuss before we wrap up. So we talked about designing the devices themselves to be more secure,
Right.
and we talked about locking them down on these, like, super secure networks,
Mhm.
and we even got into the human element of all this.
Yeah.
But there's this whole other piece of the puzzle that almost feels like something out of a sci-fi movie,
You're talking about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, AI. It feels like that's going to be, like, a big part of the future of this whole IoMT security landscape.
Absolutely. AI is going to be crucial.
Okay, so, like, how does AI even play into all this? It's not like we're going to have robot guards patrolling hospital hallways.
Not quite, although I'm sure somebody somewhere is working on that.
Right.
But no, seriously, think about this. AI algorithms that are trained on just mountains of data.
Yeah.
Mountains. And they can spot those telltale signs of a cyber attack, even the really subtle ones that might slip past, a human analyst.
Yeah.
And they can do it in milliseconds.
So it's like having an army of, like, super fast, super alert security guards that never sleep, never take breaks, and can analyze data way faster than any human ever could.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And it's closer than you think. I mean, we're already seeing AI being used in some security systems to flag unusual patterns in network traffic that could, signal an attack. And as that technology keeps getting more and more sophisticated, I think AI is only going to become more essential.
Okay, that's really exciting. But I'm not going to lie, it's also a little intimidating, Like
Huh.
this technology, it has so much potential for good, but it also feels like we're entering like uncharted territory here.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. It's like discovering like a powerful new medicine.
Right.
It has incredible potential to heal, but it also has to be developed and used really carefully.
Right, with caution.
Exactly. And that's why I think these conversations are so important right now. While this is all still evolving,
Hmm.
we have to ask those tough questions about security, about privacy, about ethics, and keep asking them every step of the way.
Absolutely. I think we only scratched the surface today, but my hope is that, this deep dive at least gave our listeners a better understanding of like how much is at stake here.
Yeah.
This is complex, it's constantly changing, and it really couldn't be more important to get it right.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's about so much more than just technology.
Right.
At its heart, this is about people. It's about protecting patients, protecting their privacy, making sure that they can actually benefit from these incredible medical advancements without, putting themselves at risk.
Right.
And that's a responsibility that we all share.
Absolutely. So if our listeners could take away one thing from this conversation today, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. Stay curious, stay informed, don't be afraid to ask questions. The future of healthcare, all of our well-being, really, it depends on it.
I love that. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's a wrap on this deep dive into the world of IoMT security. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a topic that's shaping our world.